Anyway, I'm going to be playing with doing some setup on Netlify for podcast network. In fact, I started doing it already. I need to actually Netlify.com. I need to go in and delete the old one because I started it, but I've decided I want to do this front to back, and I really didn't get very far on it. So anyway, I'm pretty sure this is it. So settings, delete this site. Now, I'm just going to throw a few things out here. You can see I've got a couple of other websites on here. The one that you're probably most familiar with, if you're familiar with what we do at devchat.tv, is the devchat.tv website is hosted on here, right? So you can just go visit it and, up it goes. So we're working on some of this stuff. And yeah, so this is all hosted on Netlify. It's all statically generated site. And what I'm working on is I want to start another podcast network where we talk about stuff that isn't code. Now, a lot of the stuff on here isn't necessarily code. I mean, we've got, DevEd podcast right here that isn't code per se. Open source sustainability isn't code per se, but it's related, right? We're working on some other stuff. I've had somebody come to me and talk to me about mental health for developers, just things like that. I'm going to be pulling together the DevRev all over again. And so, that's going to be on here, and that's more soft skills and things like that. And I'm working on Max Coders, which is going to be hosted on WordPress, which isn't going to run on Netlify. One thing I'm running into, just to throw this out there as we're getting going, is that the size of devchat.tv, we've got 2,400 or something pages that we generate. It's gotten to the point where we're kind of reaching the limits of what I can do on a free Netlify account. But if you're just starting a new website like we're going to be doing with this other site, then by all means, I think it's a great way to go. And then if you wind up outgrowing it, then you can move it to something else. And it should be relatively simple because the process is essentially you make your commit and then you just run the updates. The only other thing that I'm running into that is really convenient off of Netlify is the Netlify CMS. And so if I move off of Netlify, I'd like to be able to keep using the CMS. Looks like there's an error here, so I'll show it off here in a little bit. Yeah, I'll have to just figure it out later. Usually what happens when I've had this happen twice, and it's because I have something misconfigured in the admin. So, there's a YAML file that configures the admin. So we'll see how that all goes. But anyway, so what I'd like to do here is I'd like to create a new site. So I'm going to create a new site from Git, but I have to get the site into Git first. So let's go ahead and create the repo, and I deleted the old repo. Let's see, this is all from the previous live stream that I did. I'm just going to close those down. I can come back to them in a bit. Yeah, so I was playing with Electron in that one. Okay, here we go. So here we go. So it's going to be asylum.fm is the name of the website, so I'm just going to call it asylum.fm. I'm going to make it public. The last one I did was private because I'm probably going to be doing some proprietary stuff in there. So we'll come back over here. There we go. Now in the git ignore, I'm ignoring the node modules and the underscore site, and you'll see why here in a minute. But in the file generator, and one thing that I'm probably just going to want to check here, let me pull open Twitch again. So I'm only going to do this for an hour. So however far we get in an hour is how far we're going to get. So let's see. All right, so I'm just going to use the devchat.tv repo as a reference here. But yeah, I'm going to move it back over here so that I can use it and have both screens running. So one thing that I figured out when I put together the devchat.tv, initially I had everything in the home folder, and then with all of the shows that I had going and everything, there was just too much going on there. So I created an SRC here. The other thing that I need to do is I need to run I need to get this package JSON in here, and then what I need to do is I need to pull in as a dependency the 11d.js stuff, or I need to pull in 11d.js as the dependency. So it's we'll just do it this way: npm install, and I do save -- save, and then I think it's at 11ty/11d, and that just that sets things up so that if anyone else wants to run this, they can. Technically, all of the dependencies are going to be development dependencies, but I'm whatever. I guess when I push to production, it's going to run the build off of the dependencies and not the dev dependencies. So anyway, then the next thing that we need to do is we need to do npm install save. And this is a dev dependency. I think that's the right flag. We'll do the Netlify CLI. And the reason that this is so convenient is it really gives us a great mechanism for managing the website. Now again, because the devchat.tv website is so big, I can run Netlify CLI, but after like 1 or 2 builds, it runs out of memory and crashes. Because it's a massive website with 2,400 or so pages. So anyway, we'll just run the CLI here. So our options are, we can link this directory to an existing site, but we don't have one, so I'm going to create a new site. The site name is asylum.fm. Okay, fine. Team, it can use my team, that's fine. My GitHub username. My GitHub password. I don't know if I remember it off the top of my head, but I'm pull it off of the browser here. I use LastPass to manage all that stuff. Build command is going to be npx11t directory to deploy to. It usually picks up most of this stuff off of the 11d. Sure, go ahead and create it. So we're just gonna hurry and get all this stuff in. So set Netlify dev. And then the next thing that we need to do is we actually need to, so Netlify is going to try and build it. So you'll see now if we come back to Netlify, we refresh our list here, it's going to have Asylum FM, but it's going to fail to build. And the reason is because there's nothing to build yet, right? So 11d.js requires us to have an 11d, a .11d.js. And what it's looking for here is, this is the config for 11d. So we will go ahead and you just do module.exports function 11d config. And yes, I'm copying this off of the devchat.tv, which is over on the other monitor. Now I'm just going to save us some time, and I'll explain what I'm doing as I go. So I'm going to set up pass-through copies for these. So this is images, CSS, JS, and fonts. So what this does is we can have our images, CSS, JavaScript, and fonts in the main directory, and then it will link those over to the source directory. So I can manage those outside of the source, and it won't try and build them. It just uses them as static assets and does its thing. One other thing that's really handy is that Netlify allows you to have an underscore redirects file. And what that does is you can set paths, and then you can have them redirect to places. So typically where I use this is like if you go to devchat.tv/Sentry, I think is one of them. It'll redirect you to the sponsor site for Sentry. So that's pretty much where that all comes in. And then if we wrap things up here, and I'm probably going to have to do some more 11d stuff here as we go along. But anyway, so this is just the last section. So it tells it to build MD, which is Markdown files, NJK, which is Nunjux files, HTML, which is obviously HTML, and .liquid. And then in Markdown, it's looking for liquid. In HTML, it's going to build off of NJKs. Data templates, so it's like XML and stuff, same thing. This turns on the pass-through copy that we're using here, and then it says to build out of the src, include the underscore includes directory, pull data out of the underscore data directory, and build to the underscore site directory. So let's go ahead and create these folders here real quick. No, I don't want to rename that. New folder. Oh, come on. New folder. There we go. So we need underscore includes and underscore data. And we're probably not going to use those right away. And technically, you need a file in those in order to make pick them up and save them. Let's go ahead and commit this though. And then we can come back here. So now that's committed. We'll run the 11d command just to see what happens. And you see it created the underscore site, and it grabbed the README file because it's a .md file. So it shouldn't have done that, honestly. but it did. So we'll have to figure out why. It should be pulling from the _src folder. And this is where we're going to have all of our shows, right? So Asylum.fm is mostly going to contain podcasts. Maybe it's just because I didn't save it. One thing that I have figured out, though, is that it doesn't delete the site directory or clear it out when you run the 11d command. There we go. So it copied 5 items and processed nothing. So you don't even see it show up here because there's nothing in it for it to build. So I just hadn't saved it for this. So now it's pulling from here and pushing to there. So that gives you some idea of what's going on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and actually start setting up the website. Now I bought this. Oh, you can see that it got published here too now because it has everything it needs to build properly. And you can see that all that stuff's getting pushed in. So this is the template that I bought off of ThemeForest in order to build this out. I am putting it in a public directory. Nobody steal this because you don't have a license to it. I do. But yeah. Anyway, you can kind of see what we're doing here. So it doesn't have any image files to run off of for the pages. And I think I might have actually done that to it when I was setting things up. But you get the idea. So what we're going to have to do then is we're actually going to have to pull this index file in and start modifying it to run the website. Now they have a couple of homepage versions, and so I'm just going to find the one that I think I like the best, and then we'll kind of build off of there. So, but it looks like they all kind of have the main. So I'm just going to go off of homepage version 1. Of course, once I build it in. So these all have images behind them for whatever reason. It's just not loading them. So you see it's trying to pull in the UXR, DimageX, blah, 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 right? So it's trying to go to the internet and pull them in. And sometimes this blocks stuff. So nope, that's not it either. So anyway, I have a few security plugins that sometimes screw with things. So anyway, that should give you some idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab that file. Let's see. So it should be down here toward the bottom. So we're just going to grab index.html and we're going to drop it in right here. And honestly, that's all we actually need. So if we run that now, it'll create site and it'll have an index.html in it. And if we go to, let's see. Let's see. We'll reveal it in Finder. That's the easiest way. We'll open it with Google Chrome. Now, one thing you're going to run into here is that all the styling is messed up. And the reason is because it's trying to load off of a relative path, and it starts with a slash. So it's going to try and load slash blah, blah, blah. So it's looking in the root folder of my hard drive instead of the actual folder. So this is one place where Netlify dev comes in handy. So we'll go with Netlify dev. And what it'll do is it'll build. All right. No such file or directory functions. Let's let's force it to upgrade. Yeah. This worked last time I did it. Whoops. Boy, I cannot click that right thing to save my life. Let's create that functions folder just to see what happens. There we go. And now you can see that it's running on port 8080. But now it's failing again because those CSS files aren't in there. So let's move those over. So we'll just drop this. Oh, there's no CSS folder in there at all. Copy folder. So it says it's ready to browse, but I didn't see it rebuild. And so, yeah, so now it's rebuilt. It copied these CSS files over. And now since it's running under its own server space, oh, that's interesting. So if we look at the console, it's complaining about lots of stuff. So it's getting a 404 on all these images and JavaScript. So let's move those over too. So images, copy folder. And yeah, some of this is going to be redundant. Fonts, copy folder, JS. Now, one thing that I'm kind of digging on this a little bit is that it has a less folder. And that's where all the CSS was pulled from. So I'm kind of tempted to figure out how to just add less to the build process. But anyway, for right now, not a major deal. All right, so let's go ahead and stop this again because it's not watching those new folders. And now if we come back over here, and you can see it's already way ahead of where it was. So we basically now have that same index site that we had before. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this. And then we can come back over here, right? So now we've got this index.html, but it's all this static stuff. And I tend to like to break things up so that I can manage this in pieces. Very similar to how front-end development stuff runs with components and things like that, right? So I essentially want little layouts and partials is kind of what I call them. So we're going to create a layouts folder. And I think I'm actually just going to, we'll just call it layouts like that. And partials, okay? And so anything that's kind of a piece of this that's going to go into place, we'll call it a partial. And anything else we'll call a layout. So we're going to rename this to the asylum. And what we want to do actually is We'll fiddle with this in a minute, but we're going to include the title in that way. And that way, if the page has a title, then we can figure that out. And so then what we're going to do is we're actually going to move our index HTML into partials. We're going to change it so that it's what do we call it? Rename. There we go. We're going to call it home.njk. And then what we're going to do is in the source folder, we're going to create a new file and we're going to call it index.html.njk. And we're going to give it a title, home. And then we're going to tell it the layout is layout index.njk, which is the name of the folder. So it should be referencing this. Oh, that wound up in partials. And we want this to be home. Not a capital H, lowercase h. Okay. So now it's giving us a different error. Underscore site index HTML. Oh, see, so it didn't clear that out. Not cut or delete. So it was trying to write to that file as though it was a directory. So let's go ahead in here and start editing some of this stuff. So you can see it's pulling all this stuff in. I'm going to do us a favor here and just tell it to go with a slash in front of that stuff. And the reason is that vendors the reason is because as we build a directory structure under our website, so you go to like /show name /episode title, we want it to reference this /CSS. Okay. So now you can see that it built index.html. It built a folder here called index.html, and it has an index.html in it. So now if we come in here, and you can see now that it's starting to get some of this stuff. It's still missing some of the things here. Now I'm actually going to change this. Because there was a way to do this so that you can actually you can do this so that when it builds it, it just builds an index.html. And I'm trying to remember what I did on DevChat in order to make that happen. I think it was just index.njk. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. So it built it out. And now you can see it's just an index.html, which means that we can just come here and it'll just reference us out to index.html. A lot of the new stuff, though. So let's go ahead and we set up the default home page. Oh, I need to push this up. So when I push it into Git, then it will build. So if we come back over here and we reload, so it now has default homepage. It's building. It shouldn't take very long, honestly, but you can actually look at the deploy log. So it's installing Node, and then it's running the npm, runs npx 11d. It's telling us that it's referencing insecure URLs, blah, 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 but then it says it's live. And so you can preview the build right here. And you can see that, yeah, it looks right, okay? And then we can also just see it here on our local, nope, that's not it. Not there either. There we go. So we can see here that it's working as well, right? So you've got all these options now. So now we can start building out different pages. So what we're going to wind up doing is, if we come back over to this page, then what you can see is you can also see that there are extra pages here, right? So single video, author profile, obviously they didn't use spell check, but whatever, and category page. So let's go to single video, and you can see that it has this same menu on the top, right? So that's a candidate in my mind to be a partial. Another thing that's also a candidate for a partial, if we come back to the index page, is that each of these little sections is its own, they're identical, right? They're just pulling different data in. And so that's also a candidate for a partial. This stuff, we can break that up so that essentially how it reads is, for the index page, it's the top menu, and then the, I'll probably ditch this, actually, the upload media files and share online, because I'm not looking to build a video uploader app. I wanted this. And so I'll probably ditch this, or, do an embed in here that plays video or something like that. And then, we have this section here. But yeah, so these are all videos, staff picked. But yeah, so basically what we're looking for is the single video, an author profile, and a category page. And that's really it. So it should be pretty straightforward here. So let's go to the single video page, though, and we're going to copy this over as well. So we need to come in here. We'll open the File Explorer. Single video. So we're going to drop this in here as well, and we're going to put it in our includes layouts. And I'm just going to call it the post. Rename. And you can see here that this top portion is all the same, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file here, and we're going to call it base.njk. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull this top section that's the same for all the pages. That way I only have to change it in one place. Okay, so that's post details. All right, so that's the end of the navigation. So we'll cut, and we'll paste. And yeah, that looks good. So Then what we'll do is you can kind of infinitely nest these. So layout, and that's going to be layouts base.njk. And then the same thing with home, right? So we're going to pull the nav bar out. And call it base.njk. You're trying to use a layout that does not exist. It should exist. Oh. You'll notice that I pretty indiscriminately actually kick Netlify in the head if it doesn't do what I want, just to make sure that it pulled everything in the way that I want. You'll also see here reloading browser, so it automatically reloads stuff here. So you can see that it's still doing what we want, right? It still looks the same. It's just pulling all this stuff in. So, yeah, anyway, it makes it a lot easier to manage this stuff. So now the base has this top menu in it. So I could conceivably like pull it out too, so I could pull this out and have it just pull in like included CS. The JavaScript stuff I think is at the end of the file, so I can do that too. So I can come down here to the end of the file as well for the footer. And yeah, so I think this is going to be the same. So this ends the sidebar and widgets. And if I look at post, I'm looking for kind of the same thing, right? And so this is all the footer right here. So we'll yank that off. And we'll put it into base as well. And then, oh, I forgot one thing. So, and I'll show you what the problem is here in a minute. So then the index, the home is also going to have this yanked off. Now, one thing that you're going to run into here now is if we reload this, it shouldn't have all that content to it. Because home.njk now has all this content to it, but I didn't put anything in base to tell it where all the content goes. And so that just goes right here. So that gives you an idea. And then what we do is, then if we have a new file here, so we have this post layout, then we can create a, I'm going to do a new folder, and we're just going to call it blog for right now. All about Disney. And then we come in here and we layouts. Then that should get us started with building the All About Disney page. But then if we come over here, oh, that's the problem. So now if we come to blog, all about Disney. You can see here that there is some navigation or some problem here. So if we come to the console, see, so it's looking for images slash. So that's something that we've got to pull in here. So I'm just going to do a search and replace. That's weird. Okay, there we go. Whoops. So you can see that it's referencing these social icons and it's blowing up. So what we want is slash images slash. Now I think we're going to have the same problem here with home. Yep. And base. So now you can see it pulled in the inspect. So it's still having trouble with some of these other JavaScript files. That's going to be in base as well. Inspect. It's getting better. So it's not finding JS dropzone.js, but you can see here that it's also struggling with vendors and favicon. And then just for good measure, that's oh. I might have somebody come find me in a minute. Sounds like one of my kids is coming my way. There we go. So now if we save the file, yeah, so now it's doing everything that it's supposed to do. Because now it's referencing the slash and everything is served out of underscore site, and so it works. And so yeah, so now we have that all together. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Netlify has a lot of other features I'm probably going to start building in rather soon. But yeah, I'm just working on it one bit at a time. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this. This kind of gets you an idea of where we're going to end up. A lot of the shows I want to do with, for example, with my kids or with other folks, I'm talking to people like Joe Eames about doing a D&D podcast, for example. That's interesting. This should be linking back to the homepage. Anyway, yeah. So a lot of this I want to put to video. So we'll see how it all ends up. But yeah, so the images behind here, they're just loading off of bad location. inspect. Let's see. Yeah, so this UX art, blah, blah, blah. Here we go, open a new tab. See that it's just, there's nothing here. So it's an empty body. It's just giving us back a bunch of nothing. Loom container. That's because I have Loom installed on here. So that's off of a plugin. So yeah, so it's just a bad URL. So I just need to go in and change these. So I'm probably just going to get some generic video image and stick it in here that's the right dimensions. And that way we can kind of see this all fleshed out, and then we can kind of figure out where we're going from there. So anyway, that's a good start, I think, to this particular project. You can see that Netlify and Netlify Dev make this super easy. Did I push that up? I did. So now if you hop back over here to deploys, you can see that it's still complaining about the insecure mixed content, but you can actually go here to asylum-fm.netlify.com, and it loads it all right up. I'll probably also point asylum.fm on one of these videos just to show you how Netlify does that, because I'm planning on hosting it on Netlify until I have a reason to move it, just because Netlify is so easy and I can run it for free on here forever, until we get to 2,000, 3,000 episodes and I start having other issues. Basically, just to show you the issue that I'm running into on devchat.tv. So you can see that it's deploying just fine. And it also does deploys on, on branches. So these are Git branches right here. The rub is that the website is so large that I actually had to, I don't know if I want to do this or not. The build command, let's see, build and deploy. So the build command, I've actually had to hack it. So it's not npx 11 anymore. I actually have to tell it expand the memory size to 8 gig and then build. Otherwise it will crash every time I build it. And the Netlify dev command just isn't set up to handle that. And what I've been told by Netlify is that I can get more memory assigned to my build space, but I have to pay for it. And I haven't, and I'm starting to do other things with the domain where I might want to put like a membership site or a store or something else on it that I might run on WordPress. And so I can either run that on another domain, which is kind of what I've decided to do. So if you go to maxcoders.io, that's what I'm doing. I'm setting up a membership site over there. But the other issue is that that I have full control over the space. And so if this quits working again, then I'm probably going to have to move it. But yeah, the rub is that Netlify CMS is what we're using, and I have show notes writers that are not technical, so they're not writing the show notes in Markdown. They're writing it in WYSIWYG editor on the on Netlify. And so I have to have another option for them. And we've actually been working on something that will do that. And the reason that we're doing that isn't because there's anything wrong with Netlify. What it boils down to there is that we have the RSS feeds and other places that content needs to go to. And so when we build, it's going to build in the app, and we may as well just write the show notes once instead of writing it one place and copying it to another, which is what we're doing right now. And if we can do that, then it will actually solve some of the problem related to, copying, pasting it from one place to another, and some of the human mistakes that sometimes happen there. So anyway, that's essentially what we're looking at. So if we do that, then we may just take advantage of the GitHub API, which is what Netlify CMS does, and push the content directly into GitHub and then just deploy it on our own to wherever we wind up. So anyway, just different options. But yeah, this is working really well right now, and we have a rather large site. We just had to hack it a little bit to make this work. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna wrap this live stream up, and yeah, I'll come back and I'll hammer on this sometime later. Obviously, we need to get some of the shows and things in there and artwork and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll let you know where we wind up with all that stuff too. But you know, we're going to take advantage of a lot of the things that come into this. We're not going to do a ton with Netlify functions, but we're probably going to use identity to allow our authors to get in and edit stuff. I'm seriously considering using forms for a few things. Large media is kind of important, not necessarily for the audio files, but for the album artwork, because the album artwork for iTunes is supposed to be 2800 by 2800 pixels, and you really don't want to load that on a web page. And so having a way to drop that in and have it, you know, build or shrink it to the right size, super nice there. And we are actually using analytics on devchat.tv. And so, oh, it looks like they turned it off. I had a preview version of it before. So, anyway, it's a pretty handy thing too. So, anyway, you can check all that stuff out, and there's a ton of other stuff here. So, yeah, I'll walk through it, and you'll be able to see what we're doing here with Netlify.